This podcast is a conversation by Julie Benetti and Susan Barbaro and is a production of VI Alliance, copyright 2019. And this chart-busting hit, Alone Leave Me, courtesy of New Threads, is available everywhere.
Hi, welcome back. This is Susan and Julie, and we're still talking about the Tao Te Ching, the Book of Meaning and Life, and we are now doing passages 19 through 27. And we are working really hard to make radio great again. So please bear with us and keep listening. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Julie. You start on 19.
So looking at the concept of 19, I just felt this was really aligned with the process of going with the flow. Simply put away your vices and limitations. Things will be as they are. Simply be with the flow, let go, give it up and just, be with the flow, be with Tao.
So I agree. Actually, I called this passage the Forrest Gump passage. I thought, the movie, what everyone loved about Forrest Gump, what I loved about it is just exactly that. Just whatever someone said, he just did it. He didn't think beyond it. He didn't, and the movie was set up to have all these amazing things happen. He just went with it. And yeah, so there you go.
What's the funny part about you saying that is I feel like 19 through 27 exemplify that in a way because it's almost like the intermission. So just go with it, go with the flow. Let me say it again, be back in your seats in 15 minutes. It's like that kind of thing. It seems like as we go along, they're intense, but not as intense as the ones in the beginning and what's coming next. Moving into 20, it's funny because 20 is a really long one.
Yeah.
And yet I feel like when he's giving the between definitely and probably, what difference is there between good and evil, what difference is there? I feel like, again, it's an explanation of, what's between the in and out breath. And it's just Tao again. I feel like almost as if he's having Tao speak in this one.
So what's funny is I just got to say this, that Julie and I have very different ways of doing things. It's so funny because Julie reads it and she goes very high and goes very into the depth and it's like poetry. It's like so deep and very concise. What I do is I take what she says and then I ask myself, how does this relate to me? Because then I get very, a little bit self-centered. So like, okay, I'm here living. So it's never a disagreement. It's always like, okay, I hear what you're saying. I get the concept. And then I'm like, how do I bring it to living here, to live here differently? Because that's really why we're reading these books, right? That's why everyone's doing it. We want to live differently. And so what you're saying on that is so funny. I agree. But you know what I hear with that is, you take it and you go one step further. It's about fitting in.
Yeah.
It's like you don't fit in. All men have abundance, only I am as if forgotten. In the very end, I alone am different from all men, but I consider it worthy to seek nourishment from the mother. And we all know what the mother is. The mother refers to the Tao and what's in these books, specifically in this book. But when I read it, it's so funny because I think this can relate to, God, this was written thousands of years ago or dictated thousands of years ago. And today we are so riddled with anxiety and depression and with the whole idea of fitting in. So I can see this as it relates to exactly that.
And it's funny because I completely agree with you. And often we meet, we go to two different extremes and then we meet somewhere in the middle in our conversations, in our discussions. And there's one line in there that completely exemplifies that. What men honor, one must honor. And it's almost like he's expressing peer pressure.
Yes, exactly.
and it's in the statement, underlying that isn't said is it's lonely knowing the truth.
Yes.
And, how do you express that? And what do you do? And where do you go? And it's almost as if that's why I felt like the Tao is being spoken for. Yet, exactly what you said, it is all about fitting in. It's also about the exterior representation of it.
And, I want to add to what you said, because when you said it's lonely when you know the truth. It's really hard because you don't fit in. And you don't fit in. And it's not because you don't fit in. It's just because you can't live in a facade. Right. You can't live in a story that you didn't create and you don't choose to participate in. And to stay in that truth can sometimes be difficult. And as much as you know it, sometimes you get caught and it's like, oh, they got me again.
Right.
But Yeah, so I think it's what's interesting about this passage is that. So yeah,
and it's funny because there's the testament to, okay, so you don't fit in, so how do you fit in? You fit in by not fitting in, and that's extremely like the layers of the Tao.
Yeah.
How do you experience the Tao? You experience the Tao by experiencing the Tao.
So let's go to 21.
Okay, 21. I've got the semblance that the vibration of it is that it's the nature of Tao, yet I found that it was easier to start at the end. Whence do I know the nature of things? Just through them. And it's kind of like what I just said. So you start at the end, you know the nature of things through the experience in being with Tao. Then you know it. If you go back to the beginning, then it's the explanation of it again, this chaos, uncertainty, continuity. Here are the themes, yet you just be with it.
I agree. And in the beginning, it talks about it being chaotic and dark. So to me, chaotic is chaos. It's unpredictable. It's consistent, but unpredictable. And dark, and to me, dark simply means dark is more mysterious because you can't understand it. And so as I go through this, and I was reading it, and I thought it was actually funny. It says, from ancient times to this day, we cannot make do without names in order to view all things. And I thought, what is that? That's really talking about science. We need order and names, and we need proof, and we need theories that have been, made into laws. We need that in order to view all things. And whence do I know the nature of things? Just through them. And so I think part of this passage is saying, science can do, I'm interpreting it using today's modern language and, the things that relate to today. Science can do so much, but that is not the end all. Science is good. Science is accurate, but it's not complete.
Right.
And so I think that's interesting that the completeness comes through exactly what you said, through the experience of it. And a lot of times there's no proof. There's no hypothesis and scientific method that can be applied to it.
22?
Sure.
So here I sense the movement of Tao, and it's funny because what is half shall become whole, what is crooked shall become straight, what is empty shall become full, what is old shall become new. It's hard not to go into polarity, opposites, rhythm, and, I want to go back into, we did a set of podcasts on the Kabbalion, and a conversation about that. And all these things come into play. And it feels like the man of calling is, as the one, he has all of these things that are working in orchestration. And that's the Tao. And being in all of them and not staying on one extreme or the other. And getting the polarity, getting the opposites, and getting the rhythm of both. And I think it also goes back to number 11 with the vessel. And its nothingness is its effectiveness.
I think when I hear this, it's basically completeness and balance. And what the ancients said, that which is half shall be full, is truly not an empty phrase. All true completeness is summed up in it. And I think what it also, really pushes is the idea that it's just going to happen naturally.
Right.
Doesn't matter what you do. All the stuff, you can seek all these things, but this may not happen. It doesn't really matter what you do. What's going to happen is going to occur. It's how easily you allow it to happen and whether you get caught in these other things or not.
And there's also a bit of that which is half shall become full, is a bit of yin yang, there's a bit of...
No, yeah, but that, and that's movement, like you said. Right. It's a perfect example. It's movement.
Right. And absolutely. The funny part is it almost insinuates true completeness is having both, having all, obviously.
Well, you never have all at once because it's always movement.
Right.
So it's not like you ever reach completion. In all honesty, the completion is just you're fully in the space of whatever you're in because it's going to change.
Yeah, it's funny too. In the symbol of the yin yang symbol, they often say that the circle is a part of the symbol itself as well, and it's a part of the movement. And the circle encompasses it all. So there it is, both parts.
So 23.
Sure, use words sparingly, then all things will fall into place. It's funny, I think it's just about the words again and being with Tao, and it goes back to kind of sort of the beginning, it cannot be named. When you start to use words and names, you start to place determinators on things, and that makes it really rigid and timely, and it stops the movement. It's almost like you focus, you determine, and that's what it is, and it stops the movement of something. And again, I just get the sensation of just going with the flow, working with Tao,
so I
being one with it.
Now I get something different.
Okay.
So what I get with this is I hear the law of attraction. If you are one with them, you're in Tao, and those who have Tao will come to meet you joyfully. So it's what you think, what you hold, you will bring to you, and they will be with you. Because it talks about if you set out about to work with Tao, you will be at one with Tao, with those who have Tao, at one in life with those who have life, at one in poverty with those who are poor. So it's what you think and what you say. It's your words, because use your words sparingly. What you say is what you will attract to you. And, when it goes to the last couple lines, where faith is not strong enough, there one is not believed, which is how far can you believe? I mean, and I'm going to go to someone who's poor. Can you really believe that you won't be poor? Can you really believe you'll have money? If you can, you will, because that's what this says. If you are at one with them, and them can be people who have money, it could be those who are healthy, it could be those who own a house, it can be whatever it is, right? Those who are educated, whatever it is. If you are at one with them in life, then they will come to meet you joyfully. And again, and I go to those last two lines, if you can't, how far can you believe? If you can't believe it, then it can't happen. But if you can, and I take what you say and I take a different twist on it, because I think, okay, what would this work for me? How would this make sense for me?
Well, I had one more piece that's not there that almost seems between the lines. If you're working with Tao and you'll be one, you have that faith, you have that belief, you have that knowing that you're one with it. There are others that are doing the same.
Right. And so
it's relative to exactly what he's saying, and he's expressing what's out there versus the nameless of the Tao.
So but those last two lines, but where faith is not strong enough, there one is not believed. And that's where I just go to the law of attraction, because if you can believe it, then it stays there with you. But if you can't believe it, I'm never going to heal from this. My knee is never going to get better. I don't care how many experts I go to. Well, if your faith is not strong enough, then certainly it's not going to happen.
Right.
So that's kind of how I interpret that, as to why would he put that in. But so
what do you have? That perfectly segues into 24, because to me 24 is just complete doubt. Whosoever stands on tiptoe does not stand firmly. Whosoever stands with legs astride will not advance. It's almost like, any kind of action or anything resulting in judgment, they're almost egotistical actions. If you're glorifying yourself, you're boasting about yourself, you're only hurting yourself. I think in that sense, there's a huge expression of doubt in here. And if you're doubting the Tao, then, you're not having the Tao, and you're not moving with the Tao and finding it around you.
So the Tao is also where I went. This is for Tao, he is like kitchen refuse and a festering sore. And he's talking about everyone all the description he just gave. Those who stand on tiptoe, stand with legs astride, whoever wants to shine. I think he's talking about, for the Tao, that these people is like a kitchen is trash. And I hate that's kind of I'm trying to think picture wise. Maybe he said it a little bit nicer than that, but they're refuse. I'll say they need to be recycled. I'd rather say that than trash, because that
I got it as a sensation that they're hurting themselves.
Well, yeah, of course, because the Tao is there. The Tao isn't choosing you.
Right.
It's almost like, in Christian, they say God's there. God's willing to take anyone. It's not that the Tao's saying no, it's people. And then, and of course, all the creatures loathe him. And then it says, therefore, whoever has Tao does not linger with these. So those who can follow the Tao and do not get caught up.
And they're with it. They know it for themselves, and that's enough.
25?
25. Even though it's long, it just simply, for me, it was like the gist of it is Tao is complete.
We are all
it turns,
great.
It moves, it flows.
We are all
emotion.
A part of Tao. We are all great, important, and loved. And we are, I'm going to say it, the thumb. We are the thumb. We're a part of something. It's my example of the thumb. It's the same thing. Because it goes, this is perfect. Man conforms to earth conforms to heaven conforms to Tao, Tao conforms to itself.
And that's powerful right there, that last sentence, Tao conforms to itself.
And I think that to me is we're all made from the same. We all come from that same basic, simple material. Simple, yet so simple we can't define it. That's the beauty. It's something so simple, you can't touch it. You can't define it. And that runs through all of us. That's the brothers and sisters of all of us. And it is true that when you hurt someone, you're hurting all of us because we all feel it. It's just at what degree can you open up to that? So
again, I sense the last two, and however this works out in the 9 that we're grouping them into, 26 and 27 kind of go together. There's opposites and some irony, but there's a balance that's needed. I feel like he's stressing. The man of calling in 26 just is, as is the Tao. He's satisfied in how it is.
So can I add to that before you jump? Because you're going to jump to 27, and I'm going to say, no, wait a minute. So I agree with you on 26. And what I'm adding to 26 is when he talks about the man of calling, he talks about he wanders all day and he doesn't discard his load. He has all the glory before his eyes, yet he remains satisfied in his loneliness. The way I read this, and I had to go back to this one because I was like, wait a second. So what I got is he talks about the weighty is the root of the light. It starts off in stillness is the lord of restlessness. So the weighty, to me, is the beginning of the light because it's the root. And stillness overcomes restlessness. Sometimes I have to change the words just so I can follow it. He talks about how much less may the Lord of the realm take the world lightly in his persona. By taking it lightly, one loses the root. And through restlessness, one loses mastery. So to me, if he fights and he fights to lessen his load, he misses out on becoming lighter. The lightness doesn't come from dumping your load somewhere. The lightness comes almost like from work. Instead of sitting here and just moving a big pile of heavy papers to the side of the desk, you work through it, finish it, file it. That's the way you move to the lightness, not by taking it and dumping it on someone else's desk.
Right.
And I think that he doesn't because he knows that the weightiness is really why he's here, is to work through his issues, not to dump or blame or rest the solution in someone else's lap. He takes this responsibility because he knows it's for him. And then the stillness is the Lord of restlessness. Well, stillness, it says the last line, through restlessness, one loses mastery. So understanding mastery, you have to overcome restlessness. So how do you overcome restlessness? It's through the stillness. And so stillness is the patience and the understanding to master the load that's been given to you. So we're saying the same thing, but I have to take it to, because, it's, about me. Well, wait a minute. Well, then what does this mean for me? Like, I understand that the high level stuff, but it's like, okay, so I just wanted to add that to 26, and I'll go ahead and 27.
I think that's a really potent part. And the one other thing I would add that is very, very simple is that it's almost like, you take things with a grain of salt and let it go, and you stay with the flow. I mean, it's funny, I'm going to the simple. You went to the depth there, yet, what you said is very potent, and it blends into the balance of stuff in 27. A good wanderer leaves no trace. A good speaker has no need to refute. A good arithmetician needs no abacus. A good guard needs neither lock nor key, and yet no one can open what he guards. There's a true sense of living in clarity here where you don't need anything. There's no action and no item needed to just be yourself.
So the other thing, which is the second part, when, good men are the teachers of the non-good, and non-good men are the subject matter of the good. Whoever does not cherish his teachers and does not love his subject matter, for all his knowledge he would be in grave error. This is the great secret. And so what to me this means is that good men doesn't mean good bad. It's an interesting concept. If you think of good as your master of whatever it is you do, good men are supposed to teach those who are working towards what he has mastered. And the non-good men, which is what I'm going to consider those who are working towards bettering themselves, whether it's a skill or education, they're the subject matter of the good men. The good men should be learning from I'm going to call it less experienced men, because I don't want to say non-good, because it gives people tend to think good, bad, and that's not really, I don't think, what this is supposed to be, because he says early on that there are no abject men. They don't exist. And so therefore, it's a situation of we're all interconnected. We're all learning from each other. And we're all good men in this example in something, and we're all non-good men in everything, because no one does right. Yeah. But if you don't understand that we really are all in this together, and that we're all interconnected, if we don't understand this, we miss the big part of the picture. Mm-hmm. We have a big puzzle that we're trying to do, and you're missing like 90% of the pieces if you don't understand that there are no good and bad, better, worse. It's a situation of we are all in this together.
Right. All parts make the whole.
And we are all part of the Tao. Like you said, we are all a part of it. And I think people, you lose, when someone does something to you, I forget. And I do something, and I'll get mad at someone, or I'll scream or whatever. And then, afterwards I feel bad.
Looking at the final sentence, this is the great secret. And it's funny because you hear that a lot, and to me the meaning of that is you just have to be open to going with what we expressed right there, just going with it.
So I think, I hate the idea that the great secret, because then everyone expects it to be like, oh my God, the secret is the meaning of life. And you wait for that, and you wait for that. And the simplest thing, I always give this example, everyone says, oh, just say no. Sometimes that's the freaking hardest thing to do.
Right.
It's like, oh, just say no. But it can be a really difficult thing. So sometimes the simplest things, and understanding that you are not any better than anyone else. You just have certain skills that you've mastered, but you haven't mastered every skill. So I don't care who anyone is. There's somebody who does something better. It's just how we all are.
So join us for the next podcast. We'll be looking at verses 28 through another 9 of Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching. Thank you for listening to this production from EI Alliance. Check out our Amazon authors pages for books and podcasts. Find New Threads music and their latest album on iTunes, Spotify, and newthreads.us.